Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio. And today I'd like to start off by saying a big thank you to everyone who came along to celebrate our 2-year anniversary party this past Saturday in London. It was an incredible night that felt surreal, and I know emotions were running high for all of us on the team as we celebrate our 2 years with over 200 fellow RNTers in the room. On today's episode, I'm joined by the Hitman as we uncover the biggest missing pieces in an online coach's toolbox. We dive deep into what we call the 7 phases of online transformation coaching, and how in order to be an effective, results-producing coach, you need to have the ability to know when, where, how, and why you should wear each of the 7 phases. The true art of coaching has been lost, and along with base knowledge and time and miles on the gym floor, the third pillar which is lacking is adaptability, and that's where these 7 phases come in. On today's podcast, we're going to unlock and discuss the 7 phases while introducing the new RNT Online Transformation Mastermind we're launching in July that surrounds this. We ran a highly successful private cohort earlier this year, and we're now ready to unleash it to the public. If you're a coach or trainer, or you're someone looking to come into our field, you don't want to miss this episode. The article linked in the show notes, nor the announcement coming on Monday the 1st of July across all our social media. This is a true game changer for mastering the art of coaching, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
So how are you feeling after Saturday's meetup?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it took a good day to recover from it. I mean, there's lots and lots of shots, but also lots of talking and lots of conversing with so many people.
My throat was dead the next day.
Yeah. I mean,
I could barely speak.
It's crazy to think that there's that many people that know about us that much. Like, everyone's coming up to you and asking you about personal things that are going on. Like they see on socials, they see, what's going on in your email chains and through your check-ins and stuff. And it's just like, it's really nice to see people face to face, taking the online to offline. It really is. It shocks me every single time. And we did the whole meetups and the technique stuff, and we were knackered after those. But this was a whole different level. And I was only there for half the time. How did you find it?
Completely surreal. I mean, what a night it was. And like you said, just bringing that online to offline and seeing so many different faces is just incredible. And the fact that so many people have given us the opportunity to help them change is incredible. And hearing the stories as well, like some of the stories like of people who, you hear on an email and they might not really say it properly.
Yeah.
But when you hear about, I remember one of Indy's clients was telling me how much, he's transformed mentally and physically. One of Kunal's clients was saying, one of your clients, there's like hearing it from all the different coaches and just how much their lives have changed is just incredible. And the fact that so many people have given us that opportunity is humbling, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, like halfway through the night, I got someone basically hugged me from behind and just whispered in my ear, I beat anxiety because of you. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I turned around and they'd already gone. And so I don't know who it was. I don't know. I've helped one of my clients anyway. But that was obviously near the end of the night. So, well.
Yeah, it got a little bit messy towards the end.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and it was also so what we're doing today is we're gonna switch gears a bit and change up. I'll say switch gears because someone mentioned that the other day. Someone mentioned it at the meetup as well. They said we were talking about all the different phrases I use. Yeah, apparently switching gears is a big one. I don't even remember.
Switching gears is huge. It's podcast related. That's your podcast term. Then you've got your email term, which is flywheel in motion. And we need to write a book on it because a lot of the new people coming in don't have a clue what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, the flywheel one is I stole off Dan Hill, right? I stole that one off him. Yeah, that's a good one. I got to give him credit there. I really like that term he uses. So that's not really a Vagelarism there. No. There's plenty of other ones we can put a book together on.
Yeah.
But actually today's one though is actually filled with yours. So we've got a lot of your terms coming up today.
Oh yeah.
In the episode we're going to talk about.
I've got plenty of free time, so.
And what we're going to do today on today's episode is a little bit different, and we're actually going to speak to a lot of the trainers who listen to this podcast, because we know we have a big trainer audience, and we haven't really touched on content for trainers, but ahead of the fact that we're hiring at the moment quite aggressively, and we are putting together a project soon for trainers. I thought this would be the perfect time to speak to them more and go into the art of coaching a little bit more. And I also know a lot of our clients who listen to this episode, listen to this podcast, enjoy coaching and enjoy learning more behind the scenes of what we do. So I think this would be a really insightful episode. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, I'm really excited about this one. And we have a lot of people, obviously, we had used the term and coin another term, which is using the physical as the vehicle for the mental transformation. And when we take people through their journeys, often people then have a different perspective on relationships, different perspective on their job and their work. And then, often a lot of people are interested in, what we do on a day-to-day basis, because, we love our jobs. Every single minute of our day is filled with helping people. And that's our values. We love helping people. And a lot of other people want to have the same thing, where they wake up every morning and they love what they do, or they feel like they're having an impact on other people's lives. So that, that's this podcast is for you guys as well, because the art of coaching is something that is highly applicable in anything: finances, accounting, entrepreneur groups, whatever. Coaching is coaching, just with the different topics. So this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's not. This episode isn't industry specific.
No,
per se. It just, because coaching is a transferable skill, and it's just a methodology you're teaching, or the field you're in, that determines what you actually deliver. But the how is applicable across the board.
Yeah,
because I speak to a lot of business coaches and who we have as clients, and they say to me, "Oh, it's very similar, the methodology that we use." To what they do with their clientele. And these are very successful business coaches, not like the ones we see on social media and that crop up in our industry. But they all say that the methodologies are very similar in terms of the way we coach, which is always great to hear. But it just goes to show how transferable real coaching skills are.
Yeah, do you remember when we were in Sorrento and we were on the voice messages to Nimalan, and Nimalan was talking about his coaching, and in his podcast too? Like, everything was totally transferable. Like, in the way he was speaking, the way we were talking about how we're going to deliver some of our things to our coaches, it was totally transferable. It just needed the X's and the Y's being like a different thing.
Yeah, that's it. It's just the X's and Y's change, but the core is the same. So today's episode is all about essentially the art of coaching, and it is a lost art, and in a forest full of sales, marketing, specific programs, new diets, supplements, all the other things that populate the fitness industry. The art of coaching has been lost. So hopefully today we can bring back the art from the dead and restore it. So let's kick it off by talking about the 3 layers of coaching, which you can go into. We'll start with layer 1.
So layer 1 is the base knowledge. So it is those X's and Y's that we were talking about. You essentially have to have some level of foundational knowledge within your chosen field. And let's use our chosen field for now. You need some level of basic anatomy. You need physiology, some level of basic physiology. The terms and areas that you're going to apply, you need to know the terminology, and you need to know the basics of the goals that you're trying to achieve. Do you know how muscles grow? Do you know how fat loss occurs? Do you know what the machine does in the gym versus a different machine, and how that changes, the technique? You need to learn the basics. And it isn't sexy anymore. That's the issue. A lot of people don't want to, learn the basics that are necessary for the goals that their clients have. And I know we're quite big on this as well, is that the basic knowledge that is being thrown around now actually isn't the stuff that you need to get people in shape.
Yeah.
And it's, everyone focuses on these lovely terms, and they take the basic to a bit more advanced level, and they start talking about, I don't know, like really high advanced biomechanics or high advanced physiology or high non-applicable stuff to the general population. And when you're working, it's always context specific. If we always, say our job is relatively simple because we deal with, general population. They're the hardest populace to work with. because they need things a lot more basic. And, when you're working with the general population versus athletes, your context changes completely. So one thing that is applicable in the physiology realm to athletes or people that are advanced lifters is non-applicable to your basic individual. So when, I'll take shots here, but like when you're talking about basic phase 1 program or starting someone off on a training program, like getting them to do aerobic conditioning or getting to do lots and lots of cardio and not much weight, it's non-specific when your goal is a 12-week transformation or your goal is a short-term fat loss phase. People will try and overcomplicate things to make them sound important because they have an identity issue with themselves, as opposed to looking at direct, what does your client need right now, and what is the goal to get there?
Yeah, I think there is a certain amount of base knowledge you need, but I think that, like you said, it's more how you apply it, which is what we'll talk about later, that matters. But the base knowledge is also something that can't be skipped. Like, you do need to know those fundamentals that you mentioned. But once you do know the fundamentals inside out, and you can essentially think trainer, talk client. I heard that phrase ages ago. I think it was by Alwyn Crossgrove. I think it was him. When he said that, it really hit the nail on his head, because you got to remember, you're not trying to impress other trainers. You're trying to share your message with the client, and the client doesn't care about advanced biomechanics or advanced physiology. They just want to know in layman's terms what they need to do. So you need to be able to think like a trainer, but actually speak like a client. And that comes from knowing the basics very, very, very well, and keeping the knowledge specific to the client in question.
Yeah, and the word that their level of learning is. You can't hit, like, you're coaching an exercise. You remember when you see those people on the gym floor, you coaching exercises, and they would talk all the way through the set because they were coaching, like, do this, do this, do that, do this, do this, do this, stretch this, move your arm down to here, squeeze this together, do this, that, the other. It's like your client can't do all of the things you're asking him to do. It's like, if you truly understand, you will give them one thing to focus on for the whole set. And that will be the only thing that they need to do, because you truly understand that person can't conceptualize everything that they need to do. It's a learning phase. It's like adding one layer on top of the other layer, adding another coaching cue, or adding another layer of learning on top of the thing, and then you're building these pillars. You can't just like whack up a statue and be like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's you've got to know when to apply what, and that comes from a broad understanding of the basics very, very well. I mean, I remember for the first 5 years in the industry, I was learning, you go through that phase of you learn all the basics, and then you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you get really complicated, you get advanced, super advanced. And then I did that for the first 5 years progressively. And then in the last 5 years, I've completely dumbed it down again. You come back in full circle where you go from, I can't remember what the saying is, but when you go from you start super simple, you go really advanced, then you realize that really advanced doesn't really matter. So you come back to the simple.
Yeah.
And that's how I can probably describe my journey. But I think you have to go through that learning of the advanced to come back out and realize that only the simple matters.
Yeah. And I think, do you know when you were doing that and you were coming out of that realization phase, we were working together, and I was mid balls deep in that advanced thing. And you could just walk past me and go, doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter. Just go back to the basics, and then walk off again. I'm like, oh, you fucking idiot. What do you know? And then obviously you realize that you were ahead of the curve, and then I became that person.
Yeah. I remember that you were proper deep into that, but you have to go through that. It's like a rite of passage, right? But I remember you would think that I had no idea what I was talking about. and that you were just like, oh yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about the industry, or he doesn't really care about his learning and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. Right? But you had to go through that to realize that you were just going over most people's heads with your information. Like, it's great having that knowledge, right? But it's just for the clientele we have, there's just too many moving parts to be able to apply it. Like in a real life, for a real person, not living an athlete's lifestyle, and where their fitness isn't their number one priority in life, there's just too many moving parts to be able to apply half these things.
Yeah.
You've got to worry. Your number one problem is adherence.
Always. Anything,
right? You just got to get someone to do something, and that's the hardest bit. And if you can get someone to tick their boxes, they're gonna get the result that they want. Which is why having the right face on and the right mask on is critical, which is layer 3 in today's podcast.
And that's the transferable thing as well, because when you're looking like, trying to save money, like the thing of saving money is you just have to do it. You have to adhere to whatever. Like even if it's saving £5 versus £500 a month, if you don't save your £5, you're never going to make 100. If you don't save your 500, you're not going to make your thousands. And it's the same as like in the medical world, like sticking and using medication and adhering to sticking in there and using like antibiotics for 14 to 21 days or whatever is the main issue that they're having, not because the drug's not effective. It's that people don't follow the bloody plan,
Yeah.
The same stuff.
It's exactly that. It's just, it's execution. And we talk about that all the time, but it's knowing how, as a coach, we can make adherence as easy as possible, because ultimately the responsibility falls on us.
Yeah. And that is huge. If there's one thing that I think we both learned early on, is that it's your fault as the coach to if your client or your coachee or your mentee doesn't follow what you're asking them to do. You have to take the onus there. Whilst people can say, oh well, no, there's deep-rooted issues that are causing them not to follow their diet, or there's deep-rooted things that are going on that are currently stopping them from doing it, or whatever. The reality is that you can control a lot more of your client than you think, or if they're not following what you're giving them, then you're giving them the wrong thing. And your job is to be adaptable in that situation. We're going to talk about it in a bit, but put another mask on, put another face on, change the way that you're delivering the message. Have you tried, delivering it in a statistical manner? Have you decided to give it more of in like an emotional way? Have you decided to kind of lay it on a bit thick and use their whys behind their whys and their feelings? If it's not working, then it's your job to change it. You just can't keep banging your head against the wall and saying, well, it's your fault if you don't follow it. I'm giving you the right plan. It's like, well, you're not giving them the right plan.
Yeah. And that also comes back to the basic knowledge. What you'll find is, and you can probably relate to this, is when you go really advanced into topics and you'll find yourself in rabbit holes, you start blaming things like super far down the chain as the reason why someone's not losing body fat, or for example. You'll be like, oh, this cell isn't working in their body, so that's why they're not losing body fat.
It must be a vitamin B deficiency, which then causes the Krebs cycle not to work. And because the Krebs cycle is not rotating correctly, then you can't produce enough energy, and therefore you're not burning body fat. It's like, no, they're eating too much.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And we've all heard of those things before, which is why adherence is number one. But all this comes from essentially time and miles. You can only learn all of this through time and miles in the game, and specifically on the gym floor. Tell me why it's important that, as an online coach, who we're speaking to here, should spend at least a minimum of a year of quality time on the gym floor. And that's the absolute minimum. Ideally more, but let's make it realistic as well.
Yeah, I think from everything that's not related to personal training, if you're taking someone through a session, more than likely they're going to be in peak time, so you're going to have to get up, and structure your day, and things like structure and having purpose in your day and making yourself efficient at those times. The amount of life skills I built from just getting up at bloody 4:30 every morning, not when you wanted to, and then going to see someone at 6 a.m. and actually when you're there with them and they're paying for your session, the element of it doesn't matter what else is happening with your day, and even if your cat's died at home or your dog's died, that person is still paying you for that hour, and you still need to have their best interest at heart and not be wrapped up in yourself. So showing them that you're putting on a service effectively, and you're putting it on at whatever time it's needed to. I think that is a skill within itself. Getting there at 6 a.m., being hugely professional, and putting in that time when you're totally invested in that person. I think that's a transferable skill anywhere. Not only that, is that you're dealing with people on a day-to-day basis, understanding that there is peaks and troughs in people. Looking at non-verbal communication, understanding what it's like to talk to someone about their diet and realize that they're not being truthful, and it's the way that they're looking at you, or the way that they're staring away into the distance, or the things that they're saying is mattering. Dealing with those type of issues are huge. Not even just talking about the training or the dealing on a diet perspective. What do you think the biggest thing is for you, based on dealing with people on a one-to-one?
For me, it's the cueing, teaching, and correcting form. A big part of what we do obviously is video analysis, but also just giving people tips on, I can't feel my chest as much. How do I do it? Or I can't seem to do this when I squat. What do I do? Now, you might be able to relate to your own experience, but it's only when you've dealt with a number of different people and different body types, and you've seen it in person and you've tested it, your cues on people, that you know what works. Like, for example, on a pull down, just telling someone to look up slightly can change everything else. It can change the way their chest is, which then affects how they bring their shoulders back and down. But if you haven't experimented with that cue, you might just say to them, you need to arch your back, or whatever it is. It just might not be the right thing for them. But if you've been on the gym floor a lot and been around a lot of people, you can have like 10 different cues for one problem.
Yeah.
So, for example, that same pull down issue, for one person, it might be chest up. Another person, it might be look up. For another person, it might be think about moving your elbows into your pockets. For another person, it might be arch your back. They all achieve the same goal of getting that correct form, but it's delivered in a number of different ways. And it's knowing which way to deliver it I think can only really be taught on the gym floor.
I would say for those that this pocket here is essential for those people that have been through their own transformation or have done their own journey, but now want to come into the realm of training others. It's a rite of passage. Be humble, go through this and learn what it's like to help other people, not what it's good for you. How many trainers have you seen that come on and teach other people exactly the way that they train themselves? But the ability for a good trainer is to train people, not how you do it yourself, but what's right for them. And knowing that, and you have your 10 cues on every single exercise, and you go, okay, chest up, okay, that didn't work. Next time I'm going to try elbows into the side of the pocket. Okay, that didn't work. It was still shit. And then you do the next one, and then you get it on the fourth one, and then you just keep using that one. But if you were only doing it based off your own knowledge and what works for you, then you're never going to help that other person because they aren't you. They aren't you at all. And that is huge. And it's just, that's the biggest thing I want to stress for people that are not PTs, that are doing either online training or thinking of doing online training, is it's not what you did, or it's not what your transformation gave you that's going to help other people. Maybe the underlying things of like dedication, structure, rigidity, all of those type of things you can pass on to that person, but you're dealing with an individual, not just a straight system that you need to input data. You're dealing with someone that is not you.
And this also comes to having a good base knowledge and good technical knowledge in the area, because what you've said there is that even if you have all the transferable coaching skills, you still need to have the right knowledge to be able to channel it towards the fitness industry, and specifically in body transformation.
Absolutely.
So you need those cueing skills and teaching form, and like you said, and this comes also to things like nutrition advice as well. Like what works for you doesn't always work for other person. And I've done this in the past. Like when I first started here, I used to give the same training programs that work for myself to everyone else, the same nutrition plans what I was doing to everyone else. You all go through that, and then you realize that everyone's different, and my level of adherence is different to someone else's. What I'm willing to sacrifice is different to someone else's. There's all these different moving parts. You got to know, you got to have in your head what like optimal is, and be able to reverse engineer like 10 different versions of that.
Yeah, it's like there's always optimal, but then there's practical, and your ability to get potentially optimal after practical. So you get practical first, you get them moving, you get them rolling in the right, what's right for them, and then slowly you layer so that they get more optimal. If that's taking someone and them going from not tracking their food to tracking their food and realizing that they're eating loads, that's a starting point, and then you build from there. But for some other people, that's like the nuances and the small minutia. But it's, if you're giving optimal to people that haven't got a fucking clue their left arm to their right arm, then you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah. And knowing how to deliver this all comes down to layer 3, adaptability.
Yeah.
So let's segue into this, which is essentially where the magic happens. And at RNT, we call this layer go on.
7 phases of online coaching. Yeah. This
There
is
we
my
go.
flywheel in motion. And effectively, go on.
I was going to say, in order to be an effective results producing coach, you need to have the ability to know when, where, how, why you should wear each of these 7 phases.
Yeah, because all of the things that we spoke about, the miles, the time, the base knowledge, they're all tools in your toolbox, and you need to know when to use each one. Some jobs might need the hammer, some jobs might need the flashlight, some might need the screw. All of these different tools. If you're trying to use the hammer for the job of a flashlight, you're just going to get a broken room. So it's never going to be a position of where you can just throw the toolbox at it. So you need to select right and then select efficiently based on that context and that person that's in front of you. So the 7 phases was effectively designed to look at, what you need in order to be an effective and very good, well, it's context specific in this side, but results based personal online trainer. And the 7 phases are...
Before you do that, just to give more context on that, it's like, in coaching, what you'll see is is a lot of single-mindedness. So what we're talking about here, when Nathan goes into the 7 phases, is exactly what you don't want to fall into, the rabbit hole of, for example, the dictator coach. The classic kind of football coach that shouts and blasts his kids for not defending well or conceding goal. Like, some people will respond well to that, but not many will. But it's the ability of that dictator coach to then say, okay, I'm gonna change face here so I can motivate or coach the other group of people who aren't responding well to this. But what the problem is a lot of coaches fall into a single-minded way of coaching, and they typically wear one hat while neglecting the others.
Yeah. And like, how many of those actual kids in the football coaching actually respond versus they actually just internalize and actually just don't do anything and never express? I was one of those kids, and I was also one of those coaches when I grew up, so like I was as like a gymnastics coach and a football coach. I'm like, why are you not defending? And these are 4-year-old kids that just want to play football, and you see those kids all of the time, and they don't end up being in a good position. And it's the same with teachers and different ways of teaching. It's like, have you had a teacher that just lays out things from a metric standpoint to justify answers and expects you to know the answer based on them writing it on a board logically with metrics? Not everyone understands the metrics and the logic, and not everyone's going to get out of it. Whereas this whole rotation and putting on the right hat at the right time or the right faces at the right time will allow you to have the best of everything. So every single one of your clients, personality specific, context specific, goal specific, emotional, well-being, wherever they are on that spectrum, you can have their best interest at heart, so they respond best to what you're giving them. And I think that's the thing. And not many people have had the luxury of being taught or coached by someone that knows how to switch it around and use the right tool at the right time.
Yeah. So let's unlock the 7 phases then.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got the key. So phase number 1 is the enabler. So this is where the enabler is effectively that of itself, is that you enable someone to do their job or get their goal. So the enabler is your base knowledge, is your, setting someone up for the best possible plan. It's like having sitting down with them and having those plans. Are you going to, whether it's in finance or whether it's in personal training, are you going to hit this many calories? How are you going to do it? What meal plan are you going to use? What strategies, what systems are you going to put in place that'll create the biggest amount of adherence? Whether it's a savings plan for finance, it's sitting down and working out what's going to be best for them at the right moment in time to get them going now. And as we said before, it's all about that practicality mindset. You start with practical and then you move to optimal. Some people need that, that framework given to them so that they can just execute the plan because they're so far away from where they currently are or where they need to be for their overall goal. The big one is, and people fall short in the enabler, is that they they just go, oh yeah, just use the MyFitnessPal, just use MyFitnessPal, or use an app, or just eat less food or whatever. They're non-specific instructions, and some people need that specific instructions to kind of latch onto their framework. Some people already have a framework that they use from, whether it's like they eat 3 meals a day, or they eat 2 big meals a day, or they do intermittent fasting, or whatever they do, or they have 3 meals and 2 snacks. And that's your framework to go off. And then you enable them to then make the changes that they want through adherence, And I think this one is your key in the ignition, like you're saying, and then everything else from there is starting up and the car's moving. You have to get people moving, and you have to get people started, and you have to get them started with a bang, because what we know about like training and diet and stuff is that habits are only formed to be habits when you actually use them successfully.
So essentially, if we were to put the enabler into one word, it would be, or 2 words, it would be creating adherence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or initial adherence.
Yeah. And the initial adherence may be different in 2 weeks' time when they have something to work with, or it may be different in 6 months' time. Or, the whole thing is that people are like, oh, do I have to do this for the next 6 months? And you're like, no, this is just to get you ball rolling, and then it's adaptable and it's progressive throughout.
Yeah, it always changes depending on life circumstances, how your body reacts, which is why I say to a lot of people that what we do is very reactive, that we can't really be proactive in what we do, because that's what a generic cookie cutter plan is. When you say, oh, week 1, you're going to do this, week 4, you're going to do this. You have a framework in your head. You're like, okay, I'm going to get them towards, I'm going to work them in a fat loss phase, get them leaner, then consolidate, then build. You have that framework, but how exactly it pans out completely depends on the person.
Absolutely. And people are like, oh, what's next week's changes? I'm like, well, you haven't even sent your check-in yet. We don't even know what you've done this week, let alone next week. That's how reactive it is. You're responding based off an idea of a guideline of where you want to take them. But, as with like even weight fluctuations and stuff, you go up and down and it goes in flows. So you never know until like you get all the data in front of you and you're ready to make a decision. Which
segues nicely into the next phase, the strategizer.
The strategizer. And they all do what they say on the tin. This type of coach, this face is about understanding what your client's dealing with outside of just putting a plan in front of them. Do you have strategies that allow for travel? Or are you just going to tell them that they shouldn't eat and they should like stick to one method of eating? Like, let's say, oh, you go on holiday for 10 days and all you're going to do is eat protein and veggies. Now, for some people that might work, but for others, this might be their first holiday in 2 years. And they need a little different strategy. And having multiple strategies, as similar to having multiple solutions to people's adherence, is always going to be the best way. Do you have strategies for travel? Do you have strategies for social events? What type of social events are you doing? What do you have in your locker to help these people strategize around difficult situations? Or, most importantly, these are the peak times when people are going to fuck up on their diet. You need to be able to navigate these so that you don't mess up, and you get to go over the hump without a massive spike in weight where then resets you back a week, effectively.
I just had a conversation with a client just before we got on today, and he's got a photo shoot tomorrow. And on Thursday, so 2 days after, he flies out to Ibiza for 4 days. So he said to me, what's the Ibiza strategy?
I'll let you know after the call.
So, initially what I said was just aim to come back sub 65, which would be like, give him a 1.5 to 2 kilo buffer, right? Yeah. And he said, I need to find a strategy. And I was like, all right, okay. So we have to consider that there's going to be a lot of alcohol involved. You're probably not going to be sleeping much. You're going to be partying a lot. There might be other things on the table. There's all these things going on. Let's aim to have meat and fish with greens at lunchtime, and then just repeat that whenever you next eat at 6 or 7, and let's roll with that. Because I know like there's going to be like that's like a basic framework, but how much he adheres to that when he's under the influence, you don't know, right?
No, you don't.
So like that would be an example of a strategy for him And just fingers crossed it hopes it works.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing and one thing only that you'll get from Ibiza is that he's going to be doing a lot of two-stepping, hopefully. So you know, if anything goes off my week in Ibiza, you're going to get between like 150 and 200,000 steps for 4 days. So
yeah, let's hope that happens. Let's move on to the next phase, number 3, the trainer.
Cool. So this goes back to our have you had experience in personal training before? And I think this goes over pretty well. It's like, do you have the knowledge around what training techniques or what training programs you need to put in place for different people at different times? Do you know the considerations for male versus females, for people with long limbs versus short limbs? What does a program look like for a beginner versus an intermediate versus an advanced? Because, you know, we're seeing a lot of people getting excited on social media and putting plans in place with people with bands left, right, and center and high advanced techniques that, you know, for a beginner who's, you know, 40-year-old, 30% body fat, never done a bench press in their life, but they're doing, you know, things with multiple chains and bands wrapped around. And, you know, when is that contextual? When is that, you know, when is that appropriate? And biggest thing, have you had experience with people in commercial gyms, what it's like to train in a commercial gym? If you're a personal trainer, or you're a trainer, or you're very privileged to have go to the gym whenever you want, the more than likely chances that you've probably gone between 9 and 11 or 1 and 4 in the afternoon, it'll be absolutely dead. Whereas your clients are going at peak time and they have to go and wrestle for a dumbbell, or they have to go and kick an elderly lady in the morning off the machines because she's just sitting there on the phone, or, you know, the kids that are just there on the phone doing nothing. You know, how do you navigate those situations? How do you navigate the commercial gym and the pitfalls that it presents? And I think that's the phase, you know, understanding each individual gym, you know, on a bit of a nuance, you know, understanding what machines that client has. And if you understand a little bit about what the machines do, you can kind of manipulate them to be really, really good or really, you know, positive for their results. And, you know, having a really complex understanding of what it's like to train in a gym at peak times is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, this is all the trainer is the face that's all about literally that. It's all things training, and it's knowing how to navigate around real life situations on the gym floor, and being able to put together a constructive program that fits the client's needs.
Yeah.
So far we've got the enabler, which is about creating initial adherence and getting things in motion. We've got the strategizer, which is all about lifestyle solutions and creating adherence around different events in life. Then we've got the trainer, which is all about setting up the right program. So these are all very obvious faces that any trainer should have. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper, and we're going to dive into the liberator, which is face number 4. Tell me about the liberator.
So the liberator is the one where you put on when things aren't going particularly right, or things aren't going to plan. They have something that's holding them back. They have a chain around their leg, effectively. You know, they can't move. They're stuck within their progress. They've either, you know, hit points of their programs when it's becoming hard, whether it's work stress is work-life balance is hard, relationships are hard. You know, all of these different types of things that will hold your adherence levels back. You know, they're not going to affect your fat loss unless you eat more than you should, or that you don't train as much as you should. But, you know, these things will make it difficult to stick to a plan, because things may fluctuate in that priority scale. You know, everyone's got that priority scale of what matters most to them. And in times of high stress, in times of poor sleep, in times of, you know, things that are going on outside of the realms of just training and nutrition and being a robot, those things will have an effect hugely on your capacity to make decisions. And I know we love talking about decision fatigue, and that is, you know, that's probably one element of the liberator that has really, really worked for us. I think, you know, speaking collectively as a team, is that people want to have the element of like not having like strict schedules, but, you know, the liberator is about giving that freedom to people's like lives, but without the problems, like the ability to make decisions. You know, when you have a schedule, when you have things in place, you feel free, because you know that you've got something to hit, and you know what's coming next. You know, tips like reducing decision fatigue are why the Liberator is so important, because you see things in people's check-ins, you see things in people's, mood and tone on their emails, and you're like, stuff's going on here. And if we don't look at it and we don't address this, then your ability to follow a diet, save money, do whatever towards the goals that you have, even if it's like small goals, like, I don't know, people always have those goals like, oh, I'm gonna aim to do 10,000 steps, or I'm gonna do meditation for 10 minutes 3 times a week. Those things go out the complete barn door when like this stress and these lifestyle factors come on board. So that mask, that Liberator that you put on, really is about unleashing that chain and putting strategies in place to allow you to feel and act, even though these lifestyle issues are coming in place.
Yeah, essentially how you can automate easy decisions, or not necessarily easy, but automate mundane decisions in your life.
Yeah.
And do it in a way that works around these lifestyle stresses that may crop up on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I was going to say, for example, like today, I had this situation where, obviously I'm starting my diet today for my 12-week shoot. And initially I wasn't going to do any cardio, but to begin with, but then I realized that in order to hit 10,000 steps, it's probably a good idea to do some cardio, just makes it easier to hit that goal, especially because I do all my cardio outside walking. So I thought, all right, let me start with 25 minutes in the morning every day this week. Now, normally in the past, I've always done like get up, go straight to do cardio. But in the last 2 years, I really enjoyed getting up and doing some really deep work for first 2 hours. And I was like, I woke up, and initially when I went to sleep, I was like, I'm going to wake up and go and do cardio first. But when I woke up, I just couldn't get out the door. Like my automatic behavior was to go to the laptop and start working. So what I decided to do this morning, I had to make the decision in the morning, which I don't like doing. But I'd worked for 2 hours, and then I did my cardio, and then I moved to something else and use it as a break. So now, and it worked well. So now I'm going to just automate that decision and know that no matter what happens, once I've done that initial 2 hours of magic time, then it's time to go outside.
Yeah,
that's an example of liberating myself, essentially.
Yeah, and there's loads of things. Even the Liberator comes down to like, well, if you're not going to get good sleep, how do we get really good sleep? Because of the effects on fat loss, adherence, and even cognitive function with like poor sleep is massive. So put on your mask. For the Liberator, help people get better sleeping habits, stress management habits. We talk about journaling a lot and all that type of stuff, mindfulness. They all help to liberate some level of stress or perceived exertion that's going on in your life, and that as well as obviously mitigating decision fatigue and whatnot really does encapsulate the Liberator.
Perfect. Number 5. The empathizer. The empathizer.
Yeah, this is it encapsulates every single other face in this. Without the empathizer, which is effectively just all about communication, you can't do your job effectively. You really can't. If we call it the empathizer, but that's obviously just one emotion and one type of communication form that you can use. But this is essentially all about the communication. Now, how do you deliver? And we said it before. It's like it's not what you're saying; it's how you're saying it. Or it's like it's not what you're doing; it's how you're doing it. And I think Joshua Keegan mentioned it in his podcast. It's like it's how you do one thing, you do everything. Those little quotes like that are fantastic. And it's like if you're giving someone information, and this information is relatively basic, as we spoke about, the basic stuff never changes. If you want fat loss, follow your diet. But you telling someone, having that difficult conversation about them not following their diet, how you go about it will create multitude of different responses. If you come over like that football coach that says, "Oh, what are you doing? Why are you not following the diet? It's really simple. I could do it with my eyes closed," type of thing. Or you go into them, putting your arm around them and saying, "Look, like, what's going on? What can we do to help you?" Or you find that mid ground, knowing when to push, knowing when to pull. Is that key? When to use what type of communication. We've seen it like even between communication forms in itself, like emails, videos, WhatsApps. They all play a place or have a role in that type of empathizer. What mask are you going to use? What medium of tech are you going to use to communicate? And how are you going to come across? And what response are you going to get? That's ultimately what you want. You want someone to come off. And I think if there's one thing that it won't, not just one thing, but I think there's one thing that you do really, really well is when you word emails, right? You get the desired response. And I've noticed that within your clients, and when you're doing the whole, Vagella grind stuff, the big email comes with the motivational speech and then telling them how they're going to do it and how awesome it's going to be afterwards. And if there's one thing about the empathizer is that you have to understand that emotions and feelings cause action. And if you're not playing on people's emotions and feelings, then you're not going to get the action you want.
Yeah, I think the empathizer is what separates the wheat from the chaff in the coaching industry.
Yeah.
It's all about communication, and this is where the art of coaching really comes to light and really comes alive, because you can have all the other faces, but if you haven't got this one, you won't be able to deliver everything in the right way. Yeah. And there's one thing you missed out on is also the empathizer is also about being able to draw on your own experience.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why it's so critical that every coach takes themselves to the extreme, because then they can understand what the extreme is and they can guide their clients to the extreme. Because a lot of clients, a lot of people, they want to push themselves hard. Whether that's getting into photo shoot condition, whether it's getting into beach body condition, whether it's getting veins all over their abs, whatever their client wants. If you haven't done it yourself before, how can you take them there? For example, let's use a really good example here is when you coached Ivan for his transformation. If you hadn't got shredded yourself, there's no way you could coach him, because his goals were to get lines on his glutes and get completely shredded. And if you hadn't done that, you'd have no right or be able to empathize with him along that journey. And this is something I talk about all the time, in that if you've been there yourself, you can say to someone when they come in on their check-in and they say, "Oh man, I'm going to throw in the towel. This is not for me. I'm happy with where I've come to," all that kind of the self-doubt that creeps in, say 3 weeks away from being in really good shape. You can say to them, "No, this is what you're feeling. This is completely normal. Your goal is this. We're still working towards that. Let's get on with it. Here's what you need to do now." Yeah. It's being able to know that and not say to that same person, "Oh yeah, it's you've done really well. Let's switch gears now. Let's do something else." It's knowing when not to just agree with them, when to say to them, "No, you're wrong here. This is what you need to do. This is, remember why you're doing it." And it's being able to say the right thing at the right time. And yes, that comes with experience, but it can also be taught as well through the right teaching.
Absolutely. I think that it is a huge one. We always say it, and we spoke about it in podcasts before, but our results, our ability to empathize with our clients' results got so much better when we did what we did. And when someone says, "I can't go below this amount of calories," or "I'm really feeling it at the moment," you can really draw on your own experience and say, "Well, actually, I've done X amount of calories. That's 900 below where you are. I felt like absolute crap. I did what I did. I still managed to use these strategies to get to where I got to. This is what I did. Potentially, you might want to take some of these things on and use it to kind of propel yourself forward." Just like ineffectively, you're saying, "You still got room to go, mate. Let's crank it up, or let's stay consistent. It's just a bit of self-doubt. It's just a hard patch. Let's move through it," instead of going, "Oh no, I don't really know what it's like to be 8% body fat or 7% body fat. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the end. Maybe we'll just turn around and go in a different direction. No, let's jump over that wall."
Yeah, I mean, my yardstick is always, okay, I've done at a different, and for most people, it's like compared to our clients are mainly general population. So my level of muscle mass is higher. So my yardstick is 1,400 calories, 6 days a week training, 1 hour of cardio a day, 20,000 steps a day, 30 grams of fat, thermogenics up to a gram of caffeine every single day. So all of these things are like, and that was with the end goal of being 72 kilos, shredded glutes. So for me, that's like the yardstick. If anyone's complaining about calories or they can't go lower than that or they can't get leaner than that, then I'm like, well, this is what I've done. So I know it's possible to do more.
Yeah.
Let's keep pushing.
Yeah.
So that's one end of the empathizer that I think is an often missing part. But it's only one part of it.
Yeah, because actually, if you don't have, so this is interesting. When people have that, so let's say if you've got in shape yourself, but you don't have some of the other tools, like they just end up looking like the dictator.
Yeah.
But actually, it's that's the difference between a dictator and empathizer, is the communication method in between the two. It's that, you know, if you're an empathizer and you're someone that can get someone doing something that they kind of don't want to do at this moment in time, but, you know, you draw on your own experiences, whereas the dictator's like, I've done it before, I'm fucking big, I've done 1,400 calories, you're on 1,900 calories, you're worthless, let's get down, stop on the girl. That's literally what happens. And you hear it on the gym floor all of the time. It's like, well, I've done it, why can't you?
That's exactly it. And that comes down to all the other faces as well. Which is why the empathizer ties them all together. Yeah. Because you can't use the fact that you've done it yourself as a reason for everyone else to do it. Because that comes back to what we were talking about earlier on, with coaches or anyone using what they've done for themselves as what everyone else should do. But it's just another tool in the toolbox. Just another yardstick.
And I think that if that tool, the yardstick, that probably really epitomizes phase number 6, really. You know, the next one, which is the executor. Is that if you've got a good level of communication, you know how not to be a dick when coming across in emails or WhatsApps or, you know, in face to face, and you're telling them, you know, you're drawing on your own experiences, you're drawing on the coaching of other people that you've gone through the same thing. Maybe, you know, drawing on people that have got similar stuff. You know, like how many people really responded well to our article with Sanjita? Like how many women are drawing off her positivity, her, you know, her control element that she got back into her life. You know, by drawing on people that are very similar to you, you almost, you know, you can draw from their strategies, their solutions, their mindset. And I think that's an execution as well. It's that you're giving people the tools to kind of draw more mustard from themselves.
Mustard. That's the executor essentially, and that brings us nicely onto the last phase, the problem solver. And this is essentially looking at all the different faces you've got on the wall and thinking, all right, which is the one I need to take off the wall and put on today in order to get the desired result.
Yeah, I don't think it needs any more explanation than that. It is literally your ability to choose the right one for the right time. It's context. It's like, is this person going to get the desired result if I come across in that certain way? Or are they going to get the desired result if I change this in their lifestyle? Or if I change this part of their diet or that meal plan, are they going to respond positively to it? Or are they going to go down the rabbit hole or go into a negative part? And you will find that each client you have, you will probably wear 3 faces all of the time. And you'll see the people, you know, you'll see the people that you have general chit chat with. No, some of my people, I'm like, I look like a pen pal. If anyone else see my emails to my clients, they'd be like, they're paying you for that? And like, they'd be like, oh yeah, so the kids were nice. The kids were having a fantastic time. Who won in the cricket this week? How was the mothers' race at sports day? You know, all these different types of things. Like, you know, people are talking to you about that, or people are paying you for that. And it's like, well, yeah, if you look down after the reams and reams of stuff about Mother's Day and sports day, you'll find that there's a good amount of training stuff at the bottom. But you know,
you need that in order to activate the training stuff.
Yeah, you've got that's the big red button. That you have to have the communication, the stuff that we haven't mentioned it, which is effectively getting to know your client on a personal level outside of the training and the nutrition. Like,
I mean, my accountant said it best. He was also your accountant, and he said, "You got to be a professional mate."
Yeah.
And that's what he does in his business, because he's got such a good client base who've been with him for years. And he says, you know, essentially, you just got to be a professional mate, you know, in his North London, in his his Cockney accent.
Yeah, and that's why we never go and see him on a one-to-one basis, because he'll just talk for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep it down. You got to keep it to 3 questions on an email.
Look, mate, tell me what I need to know. Put it in bullet points. But yeah, that element.
He's a good empathizer, you know.
He's a fantastic empathizer. You go there and you feel great. And he sorts you out with all the taxes and stuff like that.
And when he does it with you, what he'll do is he'll give you the training. He'll give you the training. Like if you think about what he does as a trainer, he sorts all of that out within being that professional mate and being that empathizer. So he'll listen to all of your problems, and he'll give you advice on all these he'll give you all his life advice on everything. You'll draw on his experience.
Yeah.
You'll leave the meeting having got what you needed as from the accountant, but also developed a better bond with it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's like
he would have enabled you to be better, more efficient with your finances.
Yeah. And it's like he's one of those where he'll talk, and then right at the end he'll be like, "Yeah, the reason why you came in, it's all fine, it's absolutely fantastic. This is the reason why. Have a nice day."
Yeah, it could be done in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
3 hours later, and then 3 parking tickets later.
Yeah, but that element is huge. It's like, you know, we've said it all the time. It's like if you're not starting a conversation with like personal stuff or like, "Hey, how are you? How's things going? How was the weekend? What's the big plan for this week? What's the biggest challenges? What social events you got coming up with?" You know, all these different types of coaching questions that are not towards fitness and health. You will automatically build a bigger bond. You'll be surprised on the small amount of the small amount of questioning people get about their, you know, apart from their, "Hey, how are you? How's things going?" If you go a deeper level than that, you'll be surprised on how many people actually don't get that on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and that's just in general life, right? You know, most of people's work colleagues, you know, when they speak on a Monday morning, it's all very surface level, and people want to talk. People want to be heard on a deeper level than just, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah.
So that instead of going deeper into that psychology element, how do people essentially learn about these 7 phases?
Oh, well,
what are we going to be bringing to the table?
Well, I'll tell you now. We're actually going to introduce something called the RNT Online Transformation Mastermind, which luckily we did an amazing pilot launch. What was it, 3 months ago? With a small cohort of people, and not want to sort of blow the old trumpet and stuff, but we did a fantastic job of running this through. You know, we had 7 lectures done over a 7-week period with homework in between the 2, and you know, we delivered it, and a lot of the feedback and a lot of the questions and the analysis of the 7 phases is that this is not seen on the market at all. Even with the big companies, this is the stuff that no one wants to talk about, that is giving people the results and is the main reason or the principles behind people getting results. You know, there are a multitude of reasons why you should be getting results with your clients or how they're going to benefit your business. You know, we're not going to go into business coaching because, you know, as you say it best, who are we to be qualified to say that we're business coaches, you know? What we can do is we can draw on our experiences as the 7 phases and of coaching, you know, having our team and having, you know, hundreds and hundreds of results.
I think the biggest advantage we have is the ability to run our own lab experiments, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, we and what we do with that no one else I think does is we actually review every client's progress, and we go through it, whether it's in one-to-one mentorship, one-to-one meetings, or in our team meetings. So we have insights on what happens and what's working for real people living real lives across all backgrounds. That I think is very rare. And in this mastermind, what we're going to be talking about is essentially diving deep into these 7 phases and giving the insights and coaches the tools and essentially enabling them to get even better results with their clients.
Yeah, that's literally it. Really, and just there's a stat on that. So just an example on the type of research that we ran and the stuff that we've been doing is that we're not looking at what's the best fat loss method or how many kilos can you lose if you take your Himby and you don't eat for a week. But like we're looking at real life stuff. Like if you respond with a video to your client versus an email, how fast are they going to respond? And how quickly does the changes that they make allow them to adhere to their diet, or the changes that you've made allow them to make progress next week? That's the stuff that matters. You don't see people doing that. No one does that. We've been part of multiple companies, and no one's running research on how to get your clients more efficient at doing their job. People like to talk about the next supplement, or is this supplement working, or is this new training method working? It's like, no. If your client receives an email from you and is able to take action straight off that email versus a video that they have to open, load, be in a quiet spot to watch it, which one are they going to take action on? And it's the email, and that will allow your clients to be more efficient straight off the bat. And they're the small nuances that make what we do special. And if you use those and you use the 7 phases in that type of element, is that you're doing the basics, but you're doing them really, really good, then you're going to get better results with your clients because they can take more action.
Hit the nail on the head there. If you'd like more information on this transformation mastermind, please check out the article in the show notes where we go through the 7 phases a little more, and hit us up on mastermind@rntfitness.com. And we'll speak to you more about it on there. We've had a tremendous amount of interest already. A lot of it's come from the RNT family group internally. This is the first time we are speaking about it public, and we're going to be running this from mid-July, I believe. But more details will be posted in the show notes, so please check that out. Anything you'd like to finish up on, Nath?
No, just if you're thinking about applying for our hiring roles that we got currently, just do it. Send in your videos, and we've got a huge amount of responses already. Looking forward to going through all the applications and then getting people on board, because RNT is the place to be.
So yeah, if you're interested in applying for a job, please contact careers@rntfitness.com with 300 words on why you think you'd be a good fit and a 1-minute video. So there's two emails there: mastermind@rntfitness.com and careers@rntfitness.com. Both of them will be posted in the show notes, so you can gain easy access. For more information, please visit www.rntfitness.com and follow us on Instagram @rnt_fitness. Thanks for listening.